I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 105 of the Parenting Autism podcast. If you'd like to find us on the web, we're at www.parentingautismshow.com. And if you want to email us with questions, we're at parentingautism@att.net. And if you'd like to give us a call or send us a text, we are at area code 772-265-3233. I think you can get us on the WhatsApp on that number too, if in case you're in a different country where we have listeners all over the world.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think people might be able to find us now.
I think they can.
I think so.
And if you want to give us a thank you for doing the podcast, if you're enjoying listening to it, you can leave us a review somewhere, and that's like saying thank you. So
it is, and it also
that.
helps people find us, and it helps the podcast grow, which is our end goal here. So,
Yes.
So, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I really am.
Good. I'm happy to hear that you're recovering from your minor foot surgery a little bit.
Ugh.
I think we mentioned that last time that you had to. Well, I don't think we knew what exactly was happening.
No.
But you had a benign tumor that formed on the heel of one of your feet. And so you had to have that removed. And yesterday you got your checkup and a few stitches out. They left a few stitches in. You're hobbling around a little bit on your tiptoe. Mm-hmm. But overall, you are doing much better. And we are grateful for that.
Yep.
Yep. So that's a little bit of a health headline. But today, we already caught everybody up on our vacation, but the last month has still been a busy one, and it has been a month that has had a lot of changes happening and that are in the process of happening. So I thought today we would catch everyone up on the changes going on, which if you live with autism in your circle or in your life, then you know that changes happen fairly often. You also know that a lot of times autism and change don't go hand in hand very well, but I have to say that in our case with Bryce, he really does tolerate changes pretty well. So we are very blessed and fortunate in that area. But we're going to talk about some changes. We got the first set of his neuropsych test results, and so we're going to discuss that a little bit. And then lastly, we had briefly mentioned that we have the hyperbaric chamber that we have rented for 3 months, and we are just coming upon our first month of completion. And Bryce is officially over 20 hours now in the tube, doing dives between the two of us going in with him. And are we seeing any definitive results yet? I can't say I'm seeing anything definitive. I've got a few thoughts going on in my head, but I think we want to talk about it maybe on the next podcast episode where he's had a little more time and under our belt with that. And I wanted to invite listeners to ask us any questions that they have about the hyperbaric chamber that maybe we can answer from our own personal experience. So I want to put that out there.
Yeah, and we'll be posting on the Parenting Autism YouTube channel you guys getting in and out of the chamber.
Yep, we did that hot off the press today because we thought that people might find that interesting to actually see the whole process of what all it takes to set it up and then to get in and all the fun things we take in with us. And then, an hour later we come out and ta-da.
Ta-da, you're new people.
If only, right?
No, it's not like the Batcave.
No, it's not. But still, I'm positive there are good benefits from it. So
okay.
Anyway, so taking a step back to changes, I would say the first big change that we've made is that we have made a decision to change Bryce's occupational and speech therapies, the location and the therapist, after him being at the last place for 3.5 years. So that is a big change. He started at Solution Therapy right after we took him out of kindergarten at the public school, and we had the flexibility. So we're like, okay, let's put him back in for private speech and private OT, which they have been nothing short of wonderful for him and so helpful. And when we were asking him to tell us his favorite therapist, he gave me all kinds of names and then he goes, Mommy, I just love them all. And he does. And when I asked him yesterday, so how was your first week off of therapy? Because he's going to be off for a few weeks as insurance changes. And he says, it was okay, Mom, I'm a little sad. I'm like, you're a little sad? He goes, yes, because I miss them. So we're going to take him over for a visit next week. They're not far from our house at all. And I'm going to find out maybe on Wednesday if there's a good time I can take him when I'm working remotely that day so he can go over and say hi to his peoples. But it was a decision that we have made because of recent developments that have come to light with Bryce. We've talked about recently how this year we learned that he has auditory processing disorder, and he's also having some struggles with his vision, and we're doing vision therapy at home, which we can talk about that a little bit because you were telling me how you're starting to see some positive things from that, which is great. But the new therapy place that we're going to is not actually new to us. It's actually the first therapy place that we took him when he was 2. So he was with Miss Rosie and her team from age 2 to age 4 before we took him out to put him into like a regular pre-kindergarten class so that he could have some more social activity. And so anyway, we're happy to be back with them. They're happy to have us back. And we know both of his therapists well. So it won't be like starting fresh with therapists that we don't know at all. So we're excited about Miss Brittany and Miss Emily, who has been a friend of our family, and we didn't even know that she had started working there, and then God placed her to be his therapist. So it was like little affirmation after affirmation that yes, this is what we're supposed to do. What is that machine that Brittany's going to work with him? What's it called?
Interactive metronome.
Okay. So that's the machine that we were hoping they would be able to get at the other place. They couldn't, and they have it at his new therapy location. But we also bought the machine to have at home. So that way he can have more hours of doing that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would put it that way.
Okay, then.
Yeah, we bought the equipment to use at home, but we still need the certified therapist from the new location to work with us.
Right.
On that.
But he can do more at home by us having the machine at home, or no?
Yeah, so instead of having to physically be there at the therapy place, we can get more hours in at home during the week.
But she'll be guiding us for sure.
Because
we don't have a clue what we're doing. So, yeah.
Well,
I don't have a clue at all.
The program requires that.
Okay, well, good.
So
that's good to clarify.
Right.
I know we're doing it with her for sure. And anyway, she's going to be setting us up. After we get a little bit of time under our belt with that, we're going to talk about that on the podcast as well. It's just a little too early to really speculate what it can do for Bryce, but we'll definitely be sharing that. We just know that this is supposed to help with his auditory processing disorder. And I will tell you that as we get into these test results that Dr. Williamson gave us for his testing, the processing time for Bryce is definitely what is dragging him down. Mm-hmm. So I can just see how all these pieces of the puzzle and the timing are coming together to help Bryce.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to mention that autism many times comes with what they call comorbidities, which means other diagnoses or diagnoses.
Right.
So, Bryce has autism, but he also has auditory processing disorder. He also has a vision problem with convergency and divergence. And now with the Psych-Ed evaluation that the psychologist is doing, we also found out that he's going to have 2 more diagnoses. And one is ADHD, and the other one is a reading disability. So I think it's important for parents to know that there may be other stuff going on that you can address besides the autism.
Yeah.
You may be getting behaviors or other symptoms from things other than autism. So as we've come to learn, it's good to check thoroughly all of these other systems and things to drill down and make sure everything is working the way it should be.
That is correct. And I think a few years ago, after we had started this podcast, we had mentioned ADHD in a podcast episode, but Bryce was not diagnosed with it.
Not officially.
And that was when we took him to the one that the school had recommended or through the school.
And he's like, I can't even evaluate him. He's not paying enough attention. He definitely has ADD, and with, I only spent 10 or 15 minutes with the school psychologist. And he's like, I can't even evaluate him.
Right.
And so
we knew then, but it wasn't official. And he definitely has struggled with attentiveness. I will jump to that a little bit because you brought that up. What his doctor said when you were getting those test results with him. I apologize for the paper sound. Okay. Chris does not like it when I make sounds on this podcast. But I know you don't. I'm sorry. But anyway, he said he was inattentive during the testing. He had impulsive answers. He was off task, meaning that his mind was not thinking about the task that he was supposed to be thinking about. And the impulsive answers were, because he was in a hurry to move on because he wanted to get to whatever else he was thinking about, or he was distracted.
He guesses.
And that too. Mm-hmm. And so, that affected his test scores in some way as well, which we know that. But he said, auditory attention is a definite problem. And we know that. So that's something that we'll be able to take all this information that we've received since our last visit to our autism doctor, and we'll see, if you've listened to our podcast in the past, we try to take very much a holistic approach to all of this rather than a pharmaceutical approach. So we're not getting in line to put him on some type of medication for his ADHD because we want to try every other alternative first. That is no judgment to anybody who's taken it. Believe me, I have friends who give that to their children and they've gotten great results from it. Mm-hmm. But for us, we just want to try if there's any way that we can do it outside of a medical prescription that he can, have improvement. And if not, then we'll have to look at other measures. But that's kind of where we are with that right now. And so I'll go further into that because I think that's going to consume a lot of what I'm saying today. And I'll let you talk too. I know I'm talking a lot here. But sorry. And you can chime in at any time.
I'm here.
Chris is here. But maybe because I got out of the oxygen chamber that I have all this, all these extra words. I don't know. But anyway, so we're changing the therapies. His ABA, we mentioned last time that we had just gotten a new BCBA. So we're still working with her. She's going to be doing some parent training with us. And then Thursday, his RBT, who he's had for over a year, Miss Page, she told me that this would be her last week, or maybe she told me that last Tuesday. But anyway, but we were so happy for her. She's doing great things and she's going back to school and she's getting her master's so that she can become a BCBA. And she's also in the process of getting married and she's got a lot going on. And at this time, we have requested someone in the evening that can come and help Bryce, like from say 5:15 to 7:15. That's the time slot we're working for. And we understand there are many great therapists and RBTs that just aren't available in that later time slot. So now that Bryce is going to be changing his speech and occupational therapy, and we're just getting ready to start his 4th grade classes next week, we may be able to change that schedule to do ABA during the day, and we may not. We don't know. But Miss Page knows how much we love her, and if it is meant to be, she will stay. And if not, then as with all these changes, we'll know that God has someone else lined up for now. And we have had wonderful people who have worked with Bryce who have left for a season and then they come back into our lives. And so that may be the case with her. And we know you listen, Miss Paige, so we love you. And we know we'll be staying in touch with you and we will see you. So no worries there. But that is a change that is like hot off the press and going to be happening. And actually, Bryce doesn't know about Miss Paige yet, but we'll be sharing that this week. He'll be a little sad. So what else? Church. So we've been talking a little bit lately about how we've had struggles at church with the sounds. And then with the buddy room that Bryce has benefited from for so many years, and we're very grateful. It's changed. The dynamic has changed a bit with the growth of the church. A lot more families have come to the church and a lot more children who have, I would say, more severe needs than Bryce is a fair thing to say. They're now in the buddy room. So they've been trying to encourage the kids that they call, in quotes, higher functioning to go into the main room with the other, kids. But that's just not working for Bryce. It's just too much for him. It's too much noise. We've tried it. It's failed. We've tried it again. It's failed. So we tried to go back to the buddy room. But the last time that happened, that environment's not working for him now. And he has had such a wonderful buddy with Miss Debbie and all the team there. But Miss Debbie's been his buddy since he was like 3, I want to say. So for like 6 years. So it's a really difficult and emotional decision to make. But we feel like it's kind of been made for us. And again, that's kind of God's timing. So we feel he must have something new for us somewhere else. So we're going to be trying smaller churches and we're going to go where Bryce's best friend goes. It's a smaller church and he would have a friend already there, which would be very helpful with Michael. I don't know if that's going to be a match, but we're going to try it. We're in prayer about it. Again, we know God will lead us where he wants us to go. But for us, that's a huge change. That's a big, big change for our family. And one we haven't had to make since Bryce was 1. So it's been 8 years that we've been at this church. So it's a big decision, but we're just in this season of change. And we know that, and we've been feeling that. And I have not announced on the podcast yet, but I can now because people at my work know. But I'm going to be leaving my full-time job at the end of September. And this is something that God really spoke to me about last year, and I knew it needed to happen. And then after we got Bryce's diagnosis earlier in the year with his hearing and vision impairments, I knew it. I knew it was time. And so I wanted to give them a very generous notice because I'm the director of finance there and oversee a lot in the accounting department. And I wanted to have plenty of time to train and get the right people in. But I also know that this is my time to go and to be with you, babe, and to be with Bryce. You've been running this show at home for a long time, and it's a lot more layers to the onion that have been added that I don't want you to have to do alone. And so we're just going to we really don't know what all is going to happen. I have not looked for any other jobs. I'm not looking for any other jobs. I know God will open doors that he wants to open. We have worked together in the past, so we're praying about things that we can do together as a couple, like self-employed. We have some ideas that we're kicking around. We can do side jobs, which we can do that, like what you do now, and I could add some bookkeeping jobs if that's what we're supposed to do. But the bottom line is I want to be flexible with time, working remotely, where my physical presence will be with you and Bryce the majority of the time.
I think a lot of families with special needs kids, they try to find those jobs that are flexible. So let's face it, I mean, life is busy with our kids, between therapies and doctors and everything else. And
it's a full schedule for sure.
My goodness. I mean, if you're...
And they're not electives. You know what I mean? It's not like different sports. It's like things that are essential for him to progress and function in life.
Yeah. And if you're a single parent, my heart goes out to you because I don't even know how you get it all done. But it's a lot. It's a lot on the plate.
It has been a lot on the plate, especially for you. I mean, I have my own plate I was carrying, but not here with Bryce and at home. And I pick up when I do come home, and it's a lot. So anyway, we're excited about all of that.
Yes.
And Bryce is excited about that because
He gets to see more of Mommy.
Always tells me how much he misses me when I'm gone to TMIP. So he's very excited.
He's awesome.
He's super. Yeah, he really is. So those are some headline changes that are happening with the Coulters. More to come, I'm sure. But you ready to chat a little bit about the test results? So,
which ones?
This would be the Psych-Eval test results. Yeah. So you actually went to the appointment because I felt like I couldn't take another day off of work, speaking of work. But you were great. And it was my birthday, too. And they were having me a birthday luncheon. So I didn't want to didn't want to leave that. But anyway, you recorded everything, which was very helpful. And I went back and I took notes because otherwise we wouldn't have all of these notes.
Right. You always want to take good notes.
As best that you can.
When you see a doctor, for sure.
So I will say that he started talking to you about IQ scores. So I am very green, which means I am not highly educated because I've really never found a need to go study up on IQs. I would not know the difference between a full-scale IQ and a GAI, which is your General Ability Index. But apparently there is a big difference between the two. And having read just a little bit on the internet after listening and writing down all of Bryce's scores, I guess there is a big difference on that. The full-scale IQ number can be deceiving, it said, if you're really strong in one area but really weak in another area, because it's like 5 different areas that they blend together to get that score to average. And then the General Ability Index, I guess, is measured in a different way that his doctor felt was a better analysis for Bryce, I guess, a better scoring system. Well, obviously, because the number was better. But he felt like that even applied more. Having said that, Bryce's full-scale IQ... You okay with me sharing all this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
It
might be a little boring for some people.
It might be, but I'm going to try to make it as interesting as possible and informative.
Okay.
So Bryce's... his number for the full-scale IQ is 84, which is low average. So I'm like, well, what does that mean? What is an 84? So I Googled that. It's probably where you shouldn't go Google things, but I did. And it said the score that he has is borderline intellectual functioning, formerly known as borderline mental retardation.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, okay, but...
But is that for his age group? Is there an age group thing?
There is no age group.
Oh, so that's just in life.
That's just in life.
Well, listen, he's got a long way to go.
Yeah, and listen to this. I'm not discouraged by it. I mean, I did go, but then I went, that number there for the borderline is 70 to 84, and Bryce is 84.
Okay.
So he's knocking on the ceiling.
And what's the level above that?
That's just average.
Okay. Great.
Right?
Hey,
So
if we can get to average,
Exactly.
it sounds like we're right there.
We're right there. And again, that's the full scale IQ.
So you got to remember, when I'm listening to the doctor, it's like, wah, 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 wah. And I have to take notes. And then when we get home, we look through the notes and decipher
we figure it out.
What we've heard.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
So, and he did say at that point, like after he told you the 84, and he didn't explain what that meant. He just said below, it's a little low. But he said processing speed is very slow, which is what is bringing his score down. Mm-hmm. And it is. And you know what? He wasn't giving us information that we didn't know because we learned that in January. Mm-hmm. And we're already taking steps to help improve that. So I felt good about that. He's just kind of giving us that affirmation that we're on the right track. Mm-hmm. Then he said that the GAI, General Ability Index, was 95, which is average. So I looked that up, and it said that 80 to 89 is below average, which is like what he is in the other bracket. And 95 puts him right there in the middle, and it's like the 37th percentile.
And what does the general ability represent?
That's a great question. He just said that it was taking more of, I don't want to say like what his strengths were, but he said that in recent years, the psychologists have come together and realized that doing the 5 together wasn't giving a clear enough picture of where these people, the children, because I think they use a lot for school. So where the children should be tested, and they feel that the GAI is more of a stronger indicator because it doesn't do 5. I think it does like 3 prominent areas that they test. So that, again, we're on the right track. What can we say? We're on the right track. So he gave us like all these breakdowns, and I'm just going to kind of say what they tested Bryce in, so that if anybody is considering doing this and they haven't had it done, it gives a better snapshot to our listeners, because I had zero idea really what they were going to be doing. We were just told it needed to be done.
It's like 6 hours worth of testing that we've done, I think, so far. And, well, I think we're done now. But,
well, because he did 2 more and we haven't heard those results.
It's called a psychological evaluation, or psych-ed evaluation. So like an educational psychological evaluation. And so the full report we get in 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm hoping that he's going to have his suggestions moving forward for Bryce. You should use this. This will help him in this area, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. And please chime in at any time. So his verbal comprehension, which is best for reading and written language, he was in the 30th percentile at 92. His reading composite was...
And when you say 30, that's average?
I think 30 is average.
Okay. See, I'm usually the researcher.
I know.
And we've switched roles all of a sudden. So
I can't say I research deeply, but yeah, from what I'm seeing. The reading composite was an 83, and he said that was short of the score that Bryce needed. So I'm like, and that's why he's getting the reading disability diagnosis, right? So I thought, again, in my limited researching skills here and time, I thought, well, if he's in an 83, where should he be? So to give you a measuring stick, first grade would be 40, all right? So he's above first grade level. Second grade would be 90, so he's short of a second grade level.
And this is in
And this
what?
would be
For what?
reading.
Reading
specifically.
So okay.
Okay. So he's just below second grade level for reading. Third grade, that he just finished third grade, but he should be at 110, and he's at 83.
Okay.
So he's strong in areas. Reading is not his strength. It's just interesting, though, going away from these test results for a moment. You and I have started having him read to us at nighttime, right? Because we're like, reading is good. We've kind of always
done it, but we took a little break there for a while, but now we're back to it.
Well, I feel like we're back to it in a good way, because I do feel like reading has been a struggle for him. Not a secret.
Reading and writing.
Reading and writing have both.
If you ask him what his least favorite subject is, it would be language arts.
Sure, because it's the most difficult for him.
Yeah.
So I said, well, let's get him reading again, because you're like, he needs to read more. We want him reading with us at night. And I thought, well, we want to find books that have topics that interest him. So at least he would somewhat stay engaged, because as we've mentioned, the attention deficit's not there. And also I wanted to go back to like his really early books. And so seeing this now that he is above a first grade level, okay, I would agree with that, because I brought back stuff that was like first grade level. And he was reading those words and doing well, but he was pretty monotone in his reading, like not really giving any inflection in his voice and stuff like that. So he figured out, because he's a smart kid, and he figured out, well, if I'm going to be having to read books every night, I want to order some books online that I want to read. So he ordered a book about this Mario game that he's been studying. So he got that. He got a book about asking pilot questions, and it was written by an airplane pilot. So we've been doing that one at night.
That's a great one.
It has
he's
been
learning
great.
his favorite subject is airplanes, so he's learning all about airplanes.
Yeah, and it's the questions
And,
that kids
you
have
know,
asked pilots over the years.
So why is the window so small in the airplane?
Yeah, why do my ears feel the way that they do when I'm flying?
Yeah. I
What
mean,
are the bells for that I hear on the
Yeah,
plane?
the
You know?
tones. Yeah.
They start in the airport with the luggage conveyor belt. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is. It was a really well put together book.
It is. And he has been reading that. And he is, I've just pointed out a couple of things to him as we've been reading. Like, I would show him, like, this has an exclamation point. It should sound like this, And then he started, like, using inflection and interpreting punctuation with his voice. And then I got really excited and cheered for him. I think I half scared him, but it was like, you're getting it, buddy. I mean, I think it's just going to take a lot of extra time for us pouring into him with reading as extra studies, extra time to explain it to him, and he's going to get there and he's going to process it.
One thing I want to share is that going through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, Bryce has always passed the quizzes and tests, and he knew the material at that time. But it seems like he's lost some of that along the way. Like, for instance, we have this really cool game that we just got out the other day that we've had in the closet. It's called Zingo, is it? And it's where you have these, it's like bingo cards with words on it that have letters missing out of the words. And so you slide the thing and it gives you letters, and if one of the letters fits your word, you yell out the letter or your word, and you take the letter and put it on your word. Well, he was having trouble sounding out some of the words, and I said, well, what's your vowels? Tell me what the vowels are. And he could not remember the vowels, and I was floored because we had been through all that.
Yeah. He knew it.
And when I said A, and then he remembered E, I, and then, I don't know, he just didn't remember all of them. And I was talking about consonants, and it was like he didn't understand what I was talking about. So you were playing with him on that game, and he had a word on his paper that was blank AR, and a W came up that you could use. And so we said, Bryce, look at your card and put that W in all the blanks and see where it fits. And so he did, and he couldn't find a word that started with the W and ended in the AR.
But he was adding an extra letter into there, so that's why it didn't make sense to him.
And what was he saying?
He was saying
water?
Walled. What was water. Yeah, he's sticking a D in there. Water. And then you're like, here, put the W there. And you put the W there next to the A and the R, and he went, war.
As soon as he saw it next to it. But
immediately.
Across the table on the little counter thing where it came out, he could not mentally put that W into that word and say the word.
Because in his mind, he was visually adding another letter between the A and the R.
And you and I looked at each other like,
wow.
And
that's what it is. He inserts letters. When he reads, he inserts words.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect in there somewhere that we're going to just have to try to really help him work through.
I couldn't believe it. So I'm like, we need, and that's a kindergarten through second grade game, right?
It is.
And listen, if you're listening out there, and it's a really fun game.
It is.
And it's great for kids. It's called Zingo.
Yep.
And
because if you fill your card, you get to say Zingo instead of bingo, and it's cute.
Yeah.
And
as a matter of fact, they used it at speech therapy.
Yeah, because he goes, I know this game. We're like, how do you know it? We just got out of the closet, and he goes, at therapy. We're like, oh, okay.
And now that he said that, I remembered them telling me about it, and that's why we bought it. but we just never got it out to use it because of everything else.
That's our lives.
Yeah.
No, it's good. And on that point that it says it's for kindergarten to second grade, as a parent, I have, especially as a parent of a child with special needs, I've learned that those are just recommended ages. Mm-hmm. So we don't go by that. And even the books, that's why I went back to the basics, back to the early, easy ones for him, just so he could get back into the groove of reading without it being complicated. Because sometimes if he sees larger words, or the big thing for Bryce is too many words on a page, he's overwhelmed. Where if he sees 10 words, okay, I can handle that. One paragraph, I can handle that. Maybe two. But if it's a full page of letters that he has to figure out and read, it's too overwhelming for him. So, you just got to kind of know your child and figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, he's 9 years old right now. And I think our big picture end goal would be to get him to be able to function in society, maybe even drive a car,
definitely
have a job,
be
independent. That is our big monster end goal. And listen, if he graduates high school, that's a bonus, right?
Right.
I mean, which we would love for that to happen, and he's doing well.
Yep.
But the big goal, I mean, obviously, is to get him to be able to function on his own without help. Or without much help, where he can be his own person and do his own thing.
I'm in agreement. In fact, along that line, when we were doing his new ABA testing with Miss Diana, she asked me, so, we really haven't talked about, what are your goals for Bryce? I mean, do you want him to go to college? Do you want him to get a job? What do you want him to do? What are we working toward here? And I wrote it down, but I couldn't answer her right away because I'm just trying to get him to age 10 right now through fourth grade.
Right. Right. Sometimes you're so busy that you can only see the next day. Okay, what's on the schedule for tomorrow, right? And let's just try to get through today and tomorrow.
It's hard.
It is.
But, I would say that to answer her question specifically, no, college is not even on my radar.
It's not on the radar. I mean,
listen, if he gets there and he wants to go, hallelujah. Right. But that's not what I'm working for. I'm working more for, hopefully, that he could get to a point to graduate high school. I agree with that. And, he is only 9. He's only going to be 10. Mm-hmm. He does have hurdles to jump. Let that be no secret. And beyond autism, it's not like social deficits is Bryce's only issue here, believe me.
Right.
There's many, many more things that we're working on, but we'll get there. Mm-hmm. We'll take it one day at a time, one week at a time, 1 year at a time.
There's so many kids that graduate high school in their 20s when they have special needs.
Thank you. That's why they allow them to go till age 21 in the public school system for that reason. Mm-hmm. And I want to say thank you to a listener who reached out to me and had sent us a private note saying, actually, we get a lot of private notes that you love our show. We don't see the reviews, but we get the notes, and we appreciate that.
Yes, we do.
But she reached out to me and was saying, she found our podcast, and she just wanted to tell me, she said, I heard you say in one of your episodes that you're not sure, if Bryce will ever be able to live independently, because at this point, I'm not sure of that. But she said, I think with the advancement that he's making and all that you're doing, I think it can happen. It may not happen at 18, but it could happen when he's 30. And she gave me a wink and a heart, and I appreciated that, because sometimes I need those reminders too, that this isn't a race. Like we tell Bryce all the time, it isn't a race.
Yep.
And it's not a race to get him graduated and living on his own at age 18. Not a goal here at all, not even 21. It's to get him to fulfill his purpose, to learn about the Lord, and to grow spiritually, and to also grow in intellectually so that he can live the best quality of life. That's really what it's about.
I think a lot of times we're on the inside looking out, and there's some people like this lady that wrote in that's on the outside looking in, and we don't always get that or have that perspective.
Right, because we're in it every day.
It is refreshing.
Deep in the trenches. Yeah.
And even somebody that we haven't seen in a while, they come across Bryce and, he's doing so great, or, wow, he's come a long way.
Well,
or
even
Rosie.
Yeah, Rosie said that because she hadn't seen him in a while. And our sister-in-law, when we went to dinner with Randy and Carla, and she's like, I think he's doing great. Every time I see him, I can see improvements. Mm-hmm. That's encouraging. And I think it's because we see him day in and day out. Yeah, and we do see improvements, but probably not as well as other people do. Because, again, we're just learning all these things. And they don't see everything we see, obviously. So we see a lot. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at on all of that. So I was talking about his reading, and that's kind of was the segue that led to all that. But, he talked about reading composite score, a nonsense word decoding. So again, a lot of this I don't know, but this is what they test for. Reading comprehension, all of those were in the 80s, which again is probably like below average and, below where he should be for his age, and that's okay. Silent word fluency, now that was the one that was really low, and that's the one that pulled his average score down. And he said that's his ability to read sentences. So I don't know. I saw him reading some good sentences with us.
We'll have to dig a little deeper.
We're going to dig a little deeper. I do know that he said here, this is where he went and said another speed word test that he was going to do for recognition and maybe phonetic decoding. He was going to test him again to make sure that score was accurate. But he said kindergarten to second grade for reading is all about phonetic decoding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he said third and fourth grade is word recognition and speed word recognition, like if you can process it faster, right? Mm-hmm. For those who read faster than others and can retain and memorize information. Mm-hmm. And then 5th to 6th grade reading should at that point be automatic for you. You're not having to figure out how to sound out the words, and then you can focus more on the comprehension. Mm-hmm. Okay, so obviously we're not there yet because he's only 9, but the phonetic decoding, I don't think we have mastered that as well as we need to. Right. So that's what he told us to look into. That was definitely one, because you asked him, what can we do now? Mm-hmm. I know we haven't finished testing yet. We're waiting for results, but is there any direction that you could recommend that we start now? So he said phonetic decoding. And ironically, which I say ironically, but I really know this is like the Lord, we had one of our friends who I've known for a long time, and she reached out to me out of the blue. She was cleaning out their closets because her youngest was going to college. And she said, I have this Hooked on Phonics curriculum here that we haven't even used. And I thought of Bryce. Would you like to have it? And I don't say no to those things because I never know if and when we might need it. So I'm like, sure, we appreciate that. So we've had it here, and it's been in the closet, and we haven't gotten to it. This all comes up, and I'm like, we have that. You said something about Hooked on Phonics. Where is that at? I'm like, it's here. It's out in the garage. So we went and we got it out. Well, it's so old that it's with cassette players. So then you said it's got cassettes. So you're like, oh, we're going to have to buy a cassette player. We don't have one anymore. I said, put it out on Facebook. I bet you there's somebody who has a cassette player that we could borrow to at least see if the system is going to work for Bryce. You put it on, and within minutes, one of our friends came on and said, I have it in the attic. I'll bring it down Sunday. Mm-hmm. So we're going to pick that up tomorrow. We'll be able to start working with him out the gate with this Hooked on Phonics and see if that's going to help us with this phonetic decoding. And I just feel like, God sometimes gives us the stuff in advance that we don't even know that we need, but he knows we're going to need. Like, he always equips us with whatever we need for Bryce, and that's pretty amazing. So we're going to see what comes out of that. And I remember that commercial, and they would say Hooked on Phonics works for me.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah,
so I hope Bryce will say that, right?
Yep.
So we'll see. And I actually, they always say that. I remember when I worked with Ingrid at the bank, and her middle son really, really struggled with reading, and she got the Hooked on Phonics. And it worked for him.
Good.
Yeah. And I want to say he was like 3rd or 4th grade when he was really having his struggles. So that just came back to me. Yeah. And so anyway, so I think that's going to be good. So then the next thing that they tested Bryce on was math composite, different parts of math. And so his overall score was 85, which again, I think that's below average. But I was a little surprised because he seems to do so well with math. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, no, I guess I'm not surprised because Bryce does not like writing at all. And he really doesn't like reading. That includes numbers. And so he likes to do all the math in his head. And so I would say most of the time he gets it right in his head. But a lot of times he'll do it in his head and then he'll go, no. And then he'll do another and then he'll go, no. And then he'll get it right. Right? But if he's being tested, he probably was no on the first answer more than once.
You know, it's very interesting. He is a very interesting
complex,
kid.
isn't he? Yeah.
It is very complex because there is a disconnect somewhere between his eyes, his brain, and his hand. So when he goes to write, he can't think by himself what he would like to write about.
That's true.
And then he can't remember what letters and numbers look like sometimes. So we have to copy it down on a separate piece of paper, and then he copies what we write. And then when we first started math addition, first grade, second grade, I would tell him he wouldn't use paper, and so I would tell him to use his fingers. So this goes along with the disconnect between his hands and his eyes and his brain, because he would not use his fingers to count,
right,
or add or subtract. And I could never understand why. And he couldn't tell me.
Right.
But that's why he started doing math in his head, because he doesn't.
I think he can't do it well on his hands.
He can't.
Do you remember when he turned 9 and I asked him to hold up 9 fingers for
and
the
he said
picture?
It hurt his brain.
He said it hurt his brain. He got so upset because he was trying his best to count out 9 on his fingers and he couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. So, there is definitely some stuff with math there. Even though he likes math, he doesn't dislike it like he does language arts.
Right. He likes science, math.
And he likes learning all that. But his math concepts, math calculations, he scored 83, 89. And once again, it was the math fluency, that speed issue again, that was a 76, and that really brought him down.
Yeah. I think he's out there.
I think Bryce is trying to get our attention.
He's out there with his iPad, and he's got these airplanes turned up to 100%.
Like full blast. Well, okay.
He's trying to get our attention.
He is. Okay, so Chris told him before we came in here today, because of what happened last episode, he goes, listen, Bryce, here's how it's going down. You got your snack. We've got you set. You can play your game. But if you come in to the studio while we're recording and you're going to show us something on your Switch, we're going to take it. I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to say, okay, Bryce, sit down and answer questions now. So
he's like, okay, Daddy, I understand.
He said, okay, so I understand. So we just started the podcast. I mean, Chris was probably 5 words in and Bryce is over at the refrigerator clunking ice out of the dispenser. So you're like, you stop the recording. You go out there, you go, dude, what are you doing? Getting ice? And it kept going. He goes, you getting ice for the whole neighborhood? And he goes, I am not coming in the room and I'm not interrupting you. I'm just getting ice for my ice cold water. And I started clapping. Yes, Bryce, you tell him, buddy.
Oh my goodness.
That was hilarious.
So now he's got the
So now I think he's trying to get our attention.
Full volume, but anyway. So
you want to keep going or do you want to attend?
left?
I got another page and a half.
Well,
so
we've
can
been
we
on
just
for a while.
Well, I don't think this is going to be a part 2. So either I'm going to talk faster and then we're going to wrap this up and we're going to bring him in. Are you ready? All right, people. Talk about speed reading and speed issues. I'm going to kick it up here. So anyway, he has speed issues with his math fluency, and we just described that to you. Okay, they tested him in spelling. He got a 78. They tested him in written expression disorder with spacing. Oh, he said he has a written expression disorder. There's another disorder. Missed that one.
Did he say that?
He sure did. He said spacing, handwriting, grammar, and punctuation. That he doesn't seem to have the grip on any of those. So that's probably true.
Literally.
Hey, here's a good one. Quantitative reasoning, he got a 97. I think that might have been one of his best scores, and that's in the 42nd percentile. So verbal comprehension was average range. They also tested visual spatial reasoning, which was an 89. Fluid reasoning, he had 100. That was by far his highest score, and he was in the 50th percentile for that. His working memory, not so good. 16th percentile. I told you, it's loud. We sound like we're at an airport right now. But anyway, working memory was an 85, and he said he has short-term auditory and visual retention. And it's true.
It's true.
Yeah. So we talked about how he can't remember things, whether you're saying it to him or whether he's hearing it. It doesn't stick for very long. So that's when he went into the ADHD diagnosis. And then he told us about another test that they did for cognitive testing. He had him sort animals, and he said that Bryce he scored a 4, which is really low. He said that Bryce has difficulty with generating cognitive sets. And he said a lot of that is because he's impulsive with his answers and he rushes through things. They tested him for a social perception, which was only a 3. And again, that's because of his autism. His narrative memory, which is an auditory memory, he got an 11. But he said what was strange was he scored an 11, so he had his answers right at first. But then he would go back and ask him again in a different way, and Bryce would either change his answer or he couldn't remember. So Bryce can remember things right away, but if you interrupt him or you ask him something else in between, he says interference impacts his encoding and his retrieval. So that's another issue. I don't know how we can work on it, but something we'll need to look into further. What else did he say? I'm trying to wrap this up here. How many? So he asked him to sort. Okay, here it was. Name as many foods as you can in 1 minute. And then he asked him to name as many animals as he could in 1 minute. And he scored really low average on that. It was like he scored a 6. And he said another example of that was he said, name as many words as you can that start with the letter S. Name as many words as you can that start with the letter F. And for Bryce to have to go and into his filing cabinet, into his memory, and pull those out and bring them back to give you an answer, he's not going to answer you quickly. Stuff's in there, but he can't retrieve it quickly. And that's that slow processing. And that's why he would score low on all of that. His expressive vocabulary was low average at 7. That would be like similarity of words. And he just couldn't relate to them very well. He said, oddly enough, that Bryce did better with abstract concepts than he did with general concepts. So, again, I think he was trying to say Bryce was a little complex. And that was pretty much the sum of the notes that I put there. I summed it up. I think at that point, he just wanted to know if we had anything else that we wanted him to test Bryce for, and if we had any other concerns. So those were expressed. He did a little more testing. We'll get the rest of the results. He is going to work with Bryce on a bi-weekly basis to help him with some of these emotional disconnects that he's having as well. He just struggles with his emotions. But, I also just learned that Bryce is in that age period where his brain is trying to learn how to process emotions. So I think what we're going through right now may seem a little extreme, and it probably is in some ways, but I think it's also natural that he's trying to learn to process these emotions. And if we can help him now, it is going to help him in his teenage and adult life tremendously. Because how many grown adults do we see that can't control their tempers, who can't control their emotions because they've never learned how to do that at a younger age? And because we are doing all these things for Bryce, and we are investing all this time with him and getting him the help that he needs now at age 9, this is going to make his life a much better quality for him and for the people around him as he gets older. So I think about that. All right. Ta-da! Let's go get Bryce. He wants to talk about his bowling today. He had Special Olympics bowling. He did get a blue ribbon. he was excited about that. And he bowls with a ramp, but we'll see how much he can tell you about it today. And I'll be right back.
I'll get him.
Okay, go get him.
Hey, bud, come in. Talk about bowling.
Did you hear my iPad?
Oh, yeah, we heard your iPad.
Sound like an airport.
I think all our neighbors heard your iPad. What do you think? Yeah, thought we were at the Fort Pierce Airport. Okay.
What do you want to talk about?
Hello, my name is Bryce Coulter.
All right. What do you want to talk about, Bryce?
My Special Olympics bowling that I won today.
Oh.
Well, today I won a ribbon and got first place.
Woo, that's
Wow.
amazing. Tell us how you did that.
I did excellent on the second game, but I kind of did great on the first one.
You did.
Very nice. Very nice. Did you have a strategy?
Pushing harder.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Nice.
Good.
Tell them about the ramp that you use.
Well, it was different. I have to use a ramp because I'm not strong enough to drill holes in it.
Right. You're not strong enough to use your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. Tell us about your bowling ball.
My bowling ball says USA Strike Force.
Oh, yeah. We like that, don't we?
Yes.
What else do you like about bowling?
What else we like about bowling?
Yeah.
What else did I like about bowling? I totally liked, I think I liked, the best thing about bowling is lining up the ramp and pushing down the bowling ball.
Excellent. How many people was on your team today?
2.
2. And was there a lot of people in the bowling alley today for Special Olympics?
There was.
Yeah.
There was totally. I had to be here at 8.
Yeah, we had to be there at 8.
In the
we
morning.
had to get up early, didn't we?
Yeah.
But you did it. You were a trooper.
I'm like a Koopa Troopa from 3D World.
Koopa Troopa. Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
That seems like that's the best thing about today.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing, Bryce.
Bye.
Bye.
You did a great job, buddy.
Yeah. Excellent.
All right, everyone. Well, you heard it right from
Right from the source.
There you go. We had a great day, and he's enjoying it, and we're very grateful for our Special Olympics family. So, all right. So once again, if you have any questions at all about the hyperbaric chamber that you want us to answer, please write in, call us, text us, whatever it is, and that'll be the next thing that we talk about here on the podcast. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.